Hello, everyone. Welcome to Off the Leash, Neptune Theatre's talk show where we chat to people in the theater industry about their time at Neptune and further afield. It's great to see you. Well, I can't see you, but it's great to know that some of you are there watching. We hope you are doing well and staying safe. Here in Nova Scotia, it seems that the curve is on the way down, which is great news, but our thoughts and hearts and prayers are still with the people that are suffering. And of course, we, like everyone else, offer our thanks and gratitudes to everyone that is working to keep us functional as a society while we go through this together. So thank you. 22 years ago, I arrived in this country. Oh my goodness, 22 years ago. Fresh off the plane, went straight into a rehearsal hall for a play. And the three actors that are joining me this evening, this was just one tiny part of their impressive careers. But for me, it was the start of my time in a brand new country, a career, hopefully at that point, I didn't know that was going to go well here in Canada. And that play was directed by Marcia Cash, and it was a Neil Simon comedy called Rumors. And Rumors was a lot of fun to do. This country felt like the promised land to me. Everyone had funny accents, and the streets were wide, and Argyle Street was paved with bars and restaurants. And these three people were in the show. So let's bring these guests in. And we sort of tongue-in-cheek called them Neptune royalty, but it's kind of true. And I'll find out how much they hated me calling them that in a second. Let's bring in our guests. We have Dame Martha Irving, Lord Bill Carr, and I don't know, Queen Nikki Lipman.
Yeah.
Hi, all of you.
Hello, hello.
I'm so glad you are practicing distancing.
No, I am. I'm sorry.
Okay, Bill. I have mine too.
I'm worried about the computer virus.
It's tie-dyed.
I know. I kind of thought yours might be tie-dyed, Nikki.
Well, Vancouver,
All I got is, you know what? All I got is this.
That's all you need.
I get that.
You can't survive that.
Cheers. Cheers to you. It's so lovely to see you. Nikki Lipman, Martha Irving, Bill Carr. As I was just saying, you were in that play. So you were in the cast of my first experience of Canadian actors. I other than a couple of people that I've met on my previous visits, I'd never worked, or I certainly hadn't worked with Canadian actors before. And you were my introduction. Wow.
Who are you?
I know.
How was that?
It was awesome. No, it was actually great.
I thought your accent was fake, actually.
Yeah.
You thought what?
I thought his accent was fake, but then I realized, it was probably real.
But that's because,
It was. Well, the funny thing was, in that play, we'll talk about it a little later, maybe when we get to it chronologically, but in that play, I was an Englishman fresh off the plane, and I was doing a New York cop accent, probably quite badly. All of you were very polite and never told me, but I was doing my best New York cop.
No, you were really good. I thought you were amazing.
Okay. Well, I didn't know.
I remember thinking at the time, he's just like jumped into the pool, right? Like you were new in Halifax, you were English, you were doing an American accent, and you just like took it.
Thank you. That's kind of what it is. What I spent most of the time doing was trying not to laugh at all of you. And failing miserably. But I do want to get to that a little later. So first off, let me just go around the room and check in. Where are you? How are you doing briefly? And what is the first restaurant or bar that you will go to sit in and imbibe in when you are done in your area, wherever you are? Martha Irving.
So I'm in Parsboro, Nova Scotia, and the very first place that Anthony and I will go when we open up again would be the Wild Caraway restaurant in Advocate Harbor, which is a beautiful destination point, and I'm missing it terribly. Although they're doing takeout. Alexis Milligan, who was on your show last night.
Yeah,
Alexis, you can hear me. Alexis came by, actually. Nikki, you'll have to come and visit. We have this beautiful space place, and behind us is a waterfall. So she contacted me and said, we're going to drive to the Wild Caraway because they're doing takeout, and we're going to pick up some takeout. But can we come back to your place at the Wild Caraway, and then we'll drive back to Parsboro to your place and eat it by the waterfall? And she always asks permission, which I think is hysterical because it's not our waterfall, it's the world's waterfall. But anyway, so I saw her briefly from a distance and her family, which was lovely. And I thought I should go to Advocate Harbor and support that restaurant. But that's where I want to go and sit and have a cocktail and look out at Advocate Harbor and just have that experience again.
Bill, what about you?
I'm going to hop. I'm going to go from place to place to place to place to place to place to place because I miss too many of them, you know. And mostly I just want to, I don't know. I just want to see some people and see them laughing again and being together.
Cool. And how are you and where are you?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm in Halifax.
Cool.
And I'm in my dining room study / office, whatever.
Cool. Now, one of you is very beautifully tapping or rubbing the table as we sit here. So we're getting a little, so just be careful of that. I don't know who it is. It might even be me. Just saying, hands up, everyone. Okay, good. Nikki, how are you? Where are you? You're probably a little further away than the rest of us.
A little.
Yeah.
I'm in Vancouver. I'm in my sort of dining room, table, kitchen area. It's a beautiful day. Fantastic day. Flowers. I have my my purple poppies here. Yeah.
Awesome.
That's where I am.
And where are you going to go?
I don't know where I'd go because I'm not a bar. I don't go. I just don't. But I what I do is I take my little margarita. Here it is, and I go down to the beach and have my margarita as the sun goes down. But the thing that I'd be able to do is I'd be able to do it with people.
Yeah.
So that would be nice.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad to hear you're doing well. I'm glad you're all here. It is lovely to see you. We have to go back really in time a little because we jokingly called you Neptune royalty because to me it feels like when I started working at Neptune in '98, you'd all done many shows by that point. I don't want to sound like I'm aging anyone or indicating anything negative.
Go ahead.
You've done a lot of shouts.
Nothing to lose anymore.
I gotta say, you actually all very kindly, without knowing that you were doing it, all sent me a list of the shows that you'd done, and I'm not going to read them out, but I just want everyone to see. It's like there's like so many. It's like you've done pretty much every show that's ever, and I'm sure there are lots of crossovers. I know that Bill probably didn't even finish his list. Well, he said he hadn't.
Well, what did he say? What did he put? He put. What was the word that he used? He used first list.
Yes,
something.
exactly. First draft.
Preliminary.
Preliminary draft because I forget. I'm old and I forget.
I know.
Me too.
I know.
I can
was good.
remember.
And some shows you've done twice, Bill.
Yes,
Noises Off, for
Yes.
example. And yeah, there's a lot, and I'm sure that there are. Nikki's done Shirley Valentine. Did you ever do Shirley Valentine, Martha Irving, in your career?
No, it's about time, isn't it?
That was a missed opportunity. What about you, Bill? You probably did it.
I auditioned that.
Yeah. So we've established.
It's actually time. It's time for Bill to do Shirley Valentine.
You know what?
Good point.
Fluidity.
Wisdom.
If only we knew someone who had a theater. Who wants to work with Bill?
Those are the two things. Yes, I have a theater and want to work with Bill.
Yeah, that's the two things. So we've established that your resume is prolific with regards to Neptune and many other theaters as well. Of course, you three are working actors across the whole country with glorious resumes and reputations that match. I know because everyone I talk to about all three of you loves you and has stories to tell. I'm hoping some people will tune in. There are already people watching. and that they will post some memories of you three. But what is do you remember the first show you did at Neptune? And who was directing? Who was the AD? And what was that like? Was it your first gig, or was it early on in your career? How did that work? Bill, what about you first?
I think the story of how I ended up at Neptune is kind of fun. I was working with Mermaid Theatre in the Valley, and I was with Evelyn Garbury, and she said, I'm going to introduce you to, she wanted to get rid of me, and she said, I'm going to introduce you to John Neville. So she took handed me a letter, and I went to see John, and I walked in, and I was very nervous because it was John Neville, and I went into his office, and I sat down, and I handed him the letter. And I said, I'm here to audition, and Evelyn wanted you to have this. And he opened it up, he looked like this, and then he said, you're hired. And I said, to do what? He said, I don't know yet. And I said, what does that letter say? And all it said was, Dear John, this is Bill Carr. Love, Evelyn. And that was it. And that was old school. I guess that's how they did things. And that was my introduction. And he said, we'll get you in stuff, and don't worry about it. And he did.
And so what was your first show? Did you...
I was trying to think. It may have been. It wasn't Taming of the Shrew, but it was back then. So I'm not sure what it was. I don't remember seeing it. That's like memory.
So that was John Neville.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm trying to do the math on how many ADs at Neptune you would have worked under, but probably
I worked under all except John and Tom and
Richard Zunion. Richard.
Oh yes, Richard. Yep. Yes, yeah. And
Ron Rick, Linda.
Yeah, and then Ron Rick, Linda. The only one I didn't work under was the one previous to you.
Right,
George.
Yeah,
whatever's name.
You did work for me.
What?
You did work for me.
I did. At one point, a long time ago.
What about? It was very recently. Nikki, what about you? Do you remember your first Neptune engagement?
I do. I came to do Servant of Two Masters.
Oh, wow.
And I was just out of theater school. And for some reason, they decided they were going to cast this play from all over Canada. It was the first show. It was the first regional theater that was invited to do a show at the new National Arts Center. So because it was the first, they decided they would cast it with actors from all across Canada. So I got a call. I got invited to come. I honestly, I think it was because Ray Ackerman, who I'd gone to university with, was the production manager. Right. And he said, I know this girl who can play Smeraldina, and she just got out of National Theatre School. That's how I think it happened.
Right.
So I came in, I got off the plane, came in. I'd never been to Nova Scotia. Came to it was Bob Sharon was the artistic director.
Right.
I got off the plane. I came to the theater. It was like 5 o'clock. There was nobody there except Ray Ackerman. And he sent me, what's that hotel? The one that's down on the corner of Argyle Street. Used to be a big bar.
Oh,
the Carlton.
Carlton?
So I was staying. There were rooms there. So that they sent me down there to the Carlton. And that was my first, that was where I stayed, in a little tiny room in the Carlton. And the first night I was there, I was in a bar. I did go to the bar, and it was hot. It was August, and I went and I sat outside on the steps of the Carlton on Argyle Street, and this young guy, Nova Scotian guy, he sat down next to me, and he was just great. He was very cute and very nice, and he said, and then he said, why are you here? And I told him, and I said, why are you here? And he said, well, I'm sick, and I'm actually from out of town. I don't live in Halifax. I have to have a big operation. And it's I'm probably not going to survive it. And that's why I'm here. Yeah. I'm sorry to hear that. He said, yeah. And anyway, he told me he was a virgin. And this was going to be his last.
I like this story.
Chance. So that was my introduction to Halifax.
I'm just going to write that down. I've never thought of that, Bill. I'll find a pen Anyway.
There was no consummation, but it took me a long time to realize that he was really man. Right? So that was kind of my introduction. But then I stayed for 40 years. So,
Yeah.
Yeah, it worked.
I think that
in that sense.
I certainly, from experience, know that once you come to Halifax, especially if you're working, and if you're an actor, if you're working at Neptune and you have that Neptune experience whilst being in this town, people do tend to want to stay. I've met so many actors over the last 20 years, and certainly since I've been AD, I hear so many stories from artists who are like, I just want to keep working here and stay in this city and in this province, and I understand it.
Yeah.
Martha, what about you?
That happens. It's like going to a place like Paris or London or any extraordinary place, and you go, I want to stay here.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that totally happened to me. I had the opportunity to the circumstances changed, and I had the opportunity to go home back to England, and I went, no, why would I do that? This is so much better. No offense to my English friends, but at the time it was like, this is so cool. Martha, you and I have worked together a lot over the last 22 years. We've interacted a lot. So I know what's been going on over the last 22 years. What was your first Neptune experience? Because you're from Prince Edward Island originally, correct?
I'm from PEI, and I went away to England to theater school, and I didn't say, oh, I want to stay here. And so I moved to Toronto, met my husband, and then we moved east because I missed the east, and arrived in Halifax, I think in 1990, and met with Linda Moore, who was the AD, who was really welcoming and gave me a half hour of her time. And coming from Toronto, that just astounded me. It's like, you don't know me, but you're giving me a half hour of your time and letting me cold read for you. And then I went to the Ship's Company Theatre and worked there for the summer with Nikki Lipman. And I think I remember this time in rehearsal when you went up to Mary Vingo and you whispered something in her ear, and she screamed and you screamed and you hugged each other. And I thought, Nikki just got a big part. I think it was Shirley Valentine personally. I don't know if that's true, but I just made that up in my head that you got Shirley Valentine. And then I got offered Fiddler on the Roof. And so that was my first Neptune job. I was the waspiest hoddle you ever met, but I had a fabulous time. I was so waspy, but I had a fabulous time and I learned so much, and I got in the door. So that was 1992.
But you know what I noticed? The thing about Neptune that I found out when I went to Toronto was I went to Toronto and I sort of handed my resume. I sort of here's my resume, and they were going, you were in this and you were in this and you were in that, and they couldn't believe the number of shows that you ended up in because you were simply in Halifax. Yeah. And there were a lot of shows done in and around, and so the resume was thick. Where somebody who lived in Toronto would get one show every year or every 2 years or whatever. But we were in, like I was going over all of your resumes, and we were in a lot of shows.
Sure, because there was Mulgrave. We all worked at Mulgrave Road and the Ship's Company and Second Stage and Pier 1 and Neptune.
And Neptune, yeah, that's right.
Neptune. But because you were at Neptune, you also had, you also worked, we cross-pollinated in all those other theaters as well. And we got to stay here.
In those days, though, because now there's Neptune and there are, a dozen other well-established professional theater companies here. It's certainly grown significantly, even in the 22 years that I've been here, the number of companies that have popped up and sustained and stayed. But was there like an indie theater scene as well then? Was that a thing?
Absolutely. Wasn't there? Like Second Stage and Pier, there was Neptune Second Stage and Pier 1, which was Linda Moore and Graham Whitehead, I think, started that.
That's right. And there was also the Stages that was ended up at the Holiday Inn with Paul Ledoux started that.
Right.
That was it.
Right.
I did a bunch of stuff there too.
Very
and that was the other thing. Once you were in the community, you sort of went, I want to work with someone, and so you ended up with a lot of fascinating people in different roles, in different facets, as it were.
And there was a lot of interdisciplinary stuff because there was the film co-op, which was just starting then, and so there was a lot of the actors work, and it was right on top of Neptune second stage, on top of the old what's that bar that's downstairs that moved up
the Aragon Street bar.
Oh, the Seahorse.
No.
Yeah, because the Seahorse was there. So Neptune Theatre Neptune
I'm
second
getting it
stage. The indie stage was behind the bar.
Yeah,
I got the name of the bar wrong.
And don't forget CBC Radio. Everybody worked CBC Radio then too. That was huge. That augmented everybody's salary. Because they actually used to do radio from here and a lot of it.
Well, it may be the case that radio drama from a distance is where we're going.
It's having a resurgence because of all of this, isn't it?
Yeah,
it should. But it's a beautiful medium. It should have that.
So let me ask some other questions now. So Martha, do you remember the first time you ever worked with Bill Carr? And what was that like? Was it because when I met Bill Carr, I was told about Bill Carr before I got into the rehearsal hall. I won't say by who or what, but it was like, Bill's this comedy guy, and he has this place on stage that he likes to stand. And if you get in it, he'll tell you to move.
It's called the middle.
Yeah.
It's just a little off middle, just to the right.
It's called the middle at the front.
Just so,
no, see, now I gotta explain. I want to explain. You see, Martha, and you heard Martha and Nikki both. Theater school, huge talent. Okay, I had no theater school and no talent, so it's just like the kid in the playground. I had to be louder and bigger than everybody else if I wanted any attention at all. So I was like, like that, and then I realized later that probably wasn't very artful of me, and so I've certainly modified myself since then.
Oh, I know from recent experience. Yeah, Martha, what was it like working with Bill the first time? Do you remember that?
Well, I'm thinking back. I think it was the first time that you worked with Bill Carr.
Oh, really?
Did we work together before that? Yeah, I think it was. No, I don't think we worked together before Rumors.
No.
Okay.
So
well, let me. Well, then now's a good time to sort of bring up this picture that I have. This is the cast of the play that the four of us were all in together.
Look at that cast.
Now it's a little dim. It's a photo of a photo, but in that photo, you have sitting on the couch Martha Irving, Raquel Duffy, Michael Spencer Davis, Charlotte Moore.
Wow.
There's Denise Barrett, Bill Carr with a bandage on his head.
Yeah.
Nikki Lipman, a guy in blue behind. That's Heather Lewis. I think 18-year-old Heather Lewis, who was an apprentice, I think. If she's watching, she'll correct me. Marty Burt. And then we go across all the way through. And right over there actually next to Martha, the late, great, amazing force that was Frank McKay.
There he is. I see him.
Yeah.
And there's so many people there. Alison Spirin, MJ, Charlie sitting on the stairs, the sound guy. My eyes are failing. I can't see.
Marcia Cash.
Marcia Cash there in the salmon
sweatshirt.
Who is the guy?
Judy Joe.
Remind me of the. I'm so sorry if he ever sees this. I apologize so wholeheartedly because he was a lovely fella. What's the name of the guy on the stairs in the white shirt with his bow tie untied? Does anybody remember?
Raymond Moore? Raymond.
Yeah.
Yes. I'm gonna have to look it up. I'll have to look it up. Now, thank you for Raymond. Yes, because he was.
He's in Cirque du Soleil.
Is he?
Really?
Yes, and he has a place near Wolfville, but most of the time he's in Cirque.
Yeah, he was based in Wolfville.
Wow.
Like I said, my memory of that play was I didn't come on for the longest time. You'd done a whole class, and then I had to come in, and I had one big, gigantic speech that I had to try to get through with you all sitting on the furniture, trying not to get into trouble with this policeman. And I had to walk around the room, occasionally go across center stage, which always made Bill Carr twitch because he wasn't on it. and deliver this speech, and I couldn't get through it. Every time I looked at Martha Irving, I lost it. Every time I looked at both of you, I lost it. Frank McKay was the worst.
Oh, he was the worst.
Because when he giggled. So I have such fond memories of that. And we were doing it in conjunction with the musical Blood Brothers, which was actually at the time my main reason for wanting to come and do that season with the summer season was for Blood Brothers because, and Martha, you were in that. And Nikki and Bill, you weren't in that one. I remember, Bill, and you can maybe tell the story. You used to, I remember you getting so mad because the ticket sales weren't great that summer. And you used to get so mad and you used to send your kids, Ruby, and I've forgotten your son's name.
Jack and Alex.
Jack, yeah. You sent some of your kids along you would go and photocopy a flyer that you made yourself and you sent your kids on the waterfront. Do you remember doing that?
Yes, I did. Yes, I did.
Wow.
We were very entrepreneurial. What can I tell you? It was a great show, and I wanted people to come in and laugh their asses off. And but can I tell a Raymond story?
Yes.
Story? Raymond was it. I remember we were in later stages of the rehearsal, and we were doing some stuff, and Raymond had to come out onto the balcony from behind a door, and it's all doors. It's sparse, so it's like boop, bam, 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 right? And we're well into the rehearsal, and all of a sudden this door doesn't open, and it doesn't open quickly, and then when it does open, it opened very slowly. And Raymond came out on the deck and he put his hand on the railing and he looked over and he had a bandage on his head. He was all messed up, and he looked at Marcia Cash and he said, why am I coming out at this point? And Marcia went, because it's funny. Now slam the door. And I lost it. I had to just get off the stage.
Okay, Bill, I just want to reference the fact that you just played the director in Noises Off, a play about a farce.
Yes.
Where one of the actors comes out to you and pretty much asks the same question. So what's the motivation about why he's taking a box into the study and your character loses it at him. So it's all based in reality.
It's all life.
It's all life. I'm just gonna take us to the comments that have been coming in. Hold on, let me just scroll here. Julia Moore was then Julia Manuel says hello. Oh yes, there are so many wonderful places in Halifax. Somebody's a big fan of your stained glass there, Nikki. Here's a question. Let's go with this. So Julia would like to know, what is your most memorable Neptune experience or a memory that sticks with you? Do you have one?
I'm really bad at answering, what's your favorite or your best. Things happen and you go, this is the best show I've ever been in. Right. Or I love this movie or this book more than anything else. And then when one is actually asked, it's always very hard to choose, especially at Neptune, because there have been so many, really. What about you guys?
Have you got one, Bill or Martha?
I'm the same. Nikki will call it living in the moment. We live in the moment, and so the moment is wonderful. So for me, I think back to the last thing, which was Calendar Girls, and that was a fabulous experience, and I loved it. And the Pay What You Can for Calendar Girls was like being a rock star. The audience, crazy wild. Oh, there we are. There's Shelley Thompson and I, and it was a real bonding of a lot of really strong local female talent that we just loved doing that show.
Cut off in its prime, cut off just as it canceled for COVID-19. 2 weeks, 1 week into the run and 2 weeks to go.
I find the memories, especially like Neptune and all the theater memories that you have, they bubble up. when you're doing something else. You're doing something else. You're like, I remember a time, you know, and they are wonderful. They're wonderful experiences. And then when you hold them in that moment, you go, oh, well, I mean, I will never forget that. And then you kind of forget until the next time it goes up. Because there's so much happens. I mean, that's the thing, you know, we all know, live theater is just, it's just a cornucopia of events in every single scene, in every moment. I mean, Nicola Lipman used to drive me crazy because I would be, see, I no training, I mentioned no training. And Nicola would be doing this sort of superb turn, you know, like she was just like, you know, and I would be going, wow, look at that. Right? And then I realized it was my cue. It was like, oh, wait, no. And so, you know.
Oh, really? Good excuse, Bill.
That was stressful. It was very stressful. It was very stressful.
I have a sense.
I tell you something I remember. It's not my favorite thing, but it's something just came to me this moment. Is remember when we were doing Cabaret? Remember, Martha?
Yeah.
Cabaret?
I loved it. Yeah.
Which I loved doing. I thought I
Me
just
too.
loved that show. But at the same time, I was going to do Wit right after. And they overlapped. And I had so much stuff to learn for Wit. And I only had, and we were doing 2 shows, you know, like 8 shows a week. And you know, the big stairs, the cement stairs in the back, between the 2 theaters.
Yeah.
So on my time off, like I'm between shows, I'd be sitting there, trying to work on Wit while knowing that we were just between 2 cabaret shows.
Right.
Just a memory, you know, because people will be coming back and forth and changing the step and I mean, it was so exciting to be doing 2 incredible plays, have 2 incredible plays in your brain at the same time.
Yeah.
And I think that's what I love about acting, is that sometimes you're in a situation like that and it's just the best, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also,
The other thing about Neptune, though, you know the old adage, the show must go on. Never did either of you ever have an understudy? Ever?
Never.
Yeah.
Well, Martha, you might have, because you worked at Charlottetown and.
No,
I mean at Neptune. We never did at Neptune.
I had an understudy. I've had understudies in musicals, but I've only ever used an understudy once when I didn't have an understudy. But I got a kidney infection, and I didn't know what it was. It had been misdiagnosed at I was at the Blythe Festival, and the little Blythe, or no, what's the closest hospital? Anyway, the tiny little hospital I went into with this back pain, and I think they told me it was my gallbladder and just not to eat fried foods. And then, but I thought at one point that the back pain was maybe because my period costume was really, really tight. And so I was going to go have a fitting and have them loosen up my skirt. And on my way to the fitting, I threw up in the street. And the stage manager walked by and said, "You're not doing the matinee today. You're going to London," or whatever the larger center was, and getting checked out. And Terry Tweed went on for me with book in hand.
I played the White Rabbit. I played the White Rabbit in Alice in Wonderland. And I was running, and I jump up and I tuck, and they would drop the trapdoor, and I would drop down into a padded thing down below, and then I'd run up and jump into the forest. And one day, it was just before we opened, I ran and I jumped up and I tucked and I dropped, and they had forgot to put the pad down, and I landed on the floor 16 feet down, and I got whiplash this way.
Oh God.
I went to the hospital. They spent the day. They put a neck brace on me. In the end, they said it's not broken, but you got a neck brace. Had a neck brace.
It'll work.
So all of my characters in Alice in Wonderland, I played 4 different characters. They all move like this. Because I had to do a neck brace because you couldn't get replaced.
when we were doing that show, Servant of Two Masters, just before the interval, one of the actresses, who shall remain nameless, had a miscarriage. Like, she actually had a miscarriage, and we were wearing those huge, costume skirts. So the curtain came down. She was rushed to the hospital, and Bruce Blakemore, who was our stage manager, was our opening night. Bruce Blakemore was who was the most incredible hippie you've ever seen in your life. and this woman is playing one of the main characters in the play, Bruce Blakemore, who likes to stay on the other side of the stage, right? With her big Bruce frizzy hair and her leather fringe jacket and leather skirt. She goes on for the actress and does the whole second act. I mean, she never expected to be an understudy, but she knew the script, of course, and so she went on with the book and ran the show, of course, because she was the stage. Well, she was the ASM. Chris Banks was the stage manager.
Chris Banks was. Oh, wow.
Chris Banks was when I came to Neptune. Chris Banks was the production stage manager for when Bob Sharon was there. Yeah. He was and Bruce was his ASM. Like he
was my first agent in Toronto.
He was my agent too in Toronto. After he stopped SMing, he became when they moved to Toronto, he became an agent. Yeah. He was a very good stage manager, but in those days, the stage management box was just off stage left, and he was a big smoker. Yeah. So he would stand like the stage was the audience was out there. He'd be smoking like this, and we would be entering behind him, and he'd say, "Okay, go 5, 6, 8, 9, 10." All right, go, he'd be smoking, and do you remember that?
A different time.
I'm assuming because I have memories of. I think I became an actor. I left theater school just after when it was still normal or accepted to smoke and drink in the rehearsal hall. This is in the UK. I don't know what it was like here. So
in the rehearsal hall?
Yeah, I remember stories about, a few years ago, there'd be a bottle of scotch over there and they'd be smoking while you're rehearsing. Was that a thing here?
Well, we would smoke, but I don't remember drinking in the rehearsal hall. But I remember smoking. Don't you?
He wouldn't. No.
Oh, Bill, come on.
Level of professionalism that I worked under.
I know.
So when I joined you that summer, fresh out of school and fresh out of England, during Blood Brothers, I held a wine and cheese party in my dressing room. Do you remember that, Martha?
I sure do.
During a Rumors night. I think it was on a Blood Brothers night in my dressing room. And Kimberly Hurtle, the stage manager, I believe it was Kim, came in at intermission and said, "What are you doing?" I said, "Well, I'm having a little party. It's just some wine and little tiny plastic cups of little tiny thimbles, really." And she said, "You can't do that." And I said, "What do you mean? I've decorated the room. There are little fairy lights everywhere. There's platters of cheese and crackers. People can come in. It's just a little thing that we do in England. We do that all the time. We don't do that in Canada." Okay. So, I learned. Julia came up with a lovely question, which I would have actually asked you as well. So what shows are on your bucket list? Must be a question you get asked a lot. What show is out there that you have not done yet, or you've done and you'd like another crack at?
Shirley Valentine.
Bill too.
Shirley Valentine. You got to do it. I'm not kidding. It'd be such a great show for you. It's perfect. Jeremy?
Okay, I'm on it. What's happening with this,
Nikki?
This talk show thing? Every time there are actors on, I end up with a list of shows that I'm apparently doing with my guests.
Well, you just
I
asked
want
for it.
I want to be in the next 5.
Yeah, okay.
Like 5 shows.
Are we surprised that you have 5 that you want to do? 5 on your bucket list?
It doesn't matter what they are. I just want to do the next 5.
The next 5.
The next 5.
Yeah.
Well, I hope you do, because we all have to get back to doing those shows.
Amen.
Yes, we do. We really do. What about you, Martha? Other than Shirley Valentine, is there actually a show out there that you haven't yet told me that you want to do?
God. I think I've told you a lot of them.
Yeah, you have. Yeah.
I don't have another one. Well, once again, I live in the moment. I have no brain.
Yeah. So one of the things
Nikki.
Well, yeah, let me get to Nikki, because one of the things that I've been really excited to be able to do over the last couple of years at Neptune is to bring back some actors that haven't been there for a while for whatever reason, and to bring them back onto the Neptune stage and let the audiences see them again and let Neptune as a building enjoy their talents again. Bill, you were one. Martha Irving never left. In fact, it's difficult to get her to leave the building. It's weird. She has a master key apparently. But Nikki, I was so thrilled when you expressed interest, and then we managed to get you to book you to come and be in Billy Elliot.
Yeah.
So right now, we're still in May, right? Yeah, right now you would be 2/3 of the way through your run of Billy Elliot.
I wanted to play Billy Elliot.
Yes, and that's on your bucket list.
Well, I think now you're ready. Yeah, there have been.
I just want to say that I also saw Bill Carr at a dance call recently, and he is ready.
Okay, this is not nice. Jeremy has abused his authority. He brought me in on false pretenses so that he could laugh at me. He had no intention of casting me. He just wanted me to go in there and make a complete butt of myself dancing, which I surprised him with how bad I was, and then I left. And I know all he did was he just went, did you see? He came, ha ha ha. I know that's what you did, Jeremy.
I sat there like this.
Revenge.
I was like, Bill can dance. No, it was for a show.
You didn't say that. No, that did not cross your lips. I don't think.
You did great.
You have great rhythm. You are great. You're very musical. Why shouldn't you be able to dance?
Well, that's what I can't figure out either. I tell my body.
We're doing a study
too until I tell my body, and my body would go like, no, I'm not, no.
Following the dance call, we're bringing in some experts, and we're doing a study. We're gonna find out for you, Bill.
There we go.
No, it was great, and I got everybody to do a dance call for that show because every single character had to dance to a degree that the choreographer wanted, and so there were no exceptions, unfortunately.
What show was it?
It was Cinderella, wasn't it?
Yep.
Yeah, it was Cinderella, which Martha Irving was in.
Yes.
I know.
Yeah, Martha Irving is in it. Yeah. I mean, Martha Irving is in it.
She does a good.
Wow.
She does a good choreography.
You were beautiful. You were beautiful.
I heard you were beautiful.
I loved that part. It was so fun.
So I was particularly, when we had to postpone Billy Elliot until all this is sorted out. I was particularly sad because I was really excited to have Nikki Lipman back at Neptune, and also to work with you again for the first time in 22 years, because we haven't actually worked together since then. So I only have really 22-year-old wine-fueled memories of that summer, because I'm not going to lie, I did go to bars, but I remember being on stage. I was sober when I was on stage, but I was so thrilled to have you coming back. So it will happen, Nikki Lipman.
It will.
And,
it will. I believe it will. I believe it's meant to be.
I
It must.
I agree. And just So we've talked about bucket list shows. We've talked about your beginnings at Neptune. Let's just we're sort of we're over time. I knew we'd be way long for this show because the three of you, and I just love talking to you, and people are still watching, so we're gonna keep talking for a little bit longer. But it is nearly my bedtime. So
the first time that Bill and I worked together.
Yes.
Tell them, Bill.
Dr. Mazowski? It wasn't it?
Was that what was there was a guy here at CBC children's programming called Robbie Vanderkeef.
Yeah.
And he cast Bill as this character called Dr. Mazowski. See, who says he doesn't have music? He was called Dr. Mazowski.
I danced up a storm. And no, but that was a very funny show. And Paul Ledoux wrote it, and there was this sort of.
You wrote it?
It was this strange scene. I can't describe it, but there was some strange stuff that went on. And Paul Ledoux would be behind the director because he didn't really get some of the stuff that he was doing, and Paul would be behind him, laughing his head off. And the director's like going, I don't understand the scene. I don't understand the scene. Then it was because it was just, wasn't for children. It should never.
And Kathy O'Connell. You remember Kathy?
Kathy
O'Connell, who was an
Oh,
actress and
yeah.
also did makeup. She was in it. She was in it too.
She was
Yeah.
in a lot of shows at that time, too.
She was in lots of stuff.
Wow.
Yeah.
What I'm going to do is I'm going to bring up a couple of photos and then you can comment on them as you wish. Okay.
Game show.
Remember this? This is, and some of these are quite moving because they feature people that are no longer with us. So for this one, for example, which I loved seeing today when it arrived in my computer.
That's Nikki Lipman and Brian McKay in front of our hotel in
Oh
Ottawa
my God.
in 1971 when we were doing Serving the Two Masters. And we're just down the street from the NAC getting our keys out. And as I said to Jeremy, he's in his bell bottoms and I'm in my maxi coat with my macrame bag.
I was going to say, you are so groovy.
We were both
Stunning.
groovy.
Yeah.
That all works now, too. That would all work now.
And Brian, who just recently passed away, he was in the next show I did at Neptune, the Christmas show. He played Ebenezer Scrooge in A Christmas Carol, and I got to be his Jacob Marley and his nephew Fred, and it was like a masterclass in not only musical theater acting from him, but it was also a masterclass in watching a gentleman like run a company, like as in, be the lead character and just be superbly generous. And I'm so sad that he's no longer with us. But I was so happy to see that picture this morning when it arrived.
Yeah.
All right, let me find you another picture here. I just to get some reaction. There's a couple more of Nikki, but I do want to get to because they're amazing. But here we go, Martha. What is going on? I can't quite see it in its small format. What's going on there? What's that? Is that you?
Oh, that's No Great Mischief. And I'm Grandma in the back, and John Dunsworth is Grandpa.
Oh.
Yeah.
I didn't know you did that, Martha.
Yeah, because Nikki played my part at the Tarragon, right? Or
That's right. But I didn't know it had been done in Neptune. I never knew that.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
All right. Well, one's in that picture. I found this picture today, and it's not a performance, but it is two lovely gentlemen together, and I know that this will make us all shed a tear.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was Two Farts on a Porch. That's what we called it. We had a radio show called Two Farts on a Porch, which we did.
You and John
Dunn. Online thing. Yeah. He is deeply missed. But deeply missed. John's mind was so fast and so amazing, but he was also such a heart for everybody that he worked with, like young talent that he would just make sure they got a chance, make sure they got exposed, make sure they got some he was generous to it all.
When he was running his Filmworks casting company in Halifax, he was doing that when I arrived in the country. The year before I arrived in the country, I was told a list of people I had to go and meet. Linda was one of them, and I had to go and chat to people at Shakespeare by the Sea and at ATF. It was going then. It was one of the times when it was running. And John was running his casting company. So I walked past, and I was taken in to meet him, and he found out that I'd just been studying at the Bristol Old Vic, so a classical theatre school. He said, "Oh, do some Shakespeare. Give me some Shakespeare." And I was like, and he was bearded, at the big black beard, bald head beard, and he was keen, and he was a casting director, and I was fresh out of theatre school, so I was like, "Yeah, whatever you want." So I found myself doing Hamlet soliloquies at full tilt in that glass-fronted office on Barrington Street with hookers walking by, wondering what on earth was going on. And he was like, "Do it again, do another one." That was my first introduction to John Dunsworth in 1997, fall of 97. And you're right. He was keen to find new people and new faces and encourage emerging people. And again, he was another one of those people like Brian, where I'm like, okay, if ever I'm in a position of any kind of perceived power, that's what I've got to be like. Brian was like that. Frank McKay was like that. And to be honest, I got to say it, the three of you are like that to me as well. So, but you're still here, so that's great. I want to show you another picture. Bill, this is Bill negotiating a Neptune contract.
See, Nikki, see the hair, Nikki? Nikki, look at that hair, Nikki.
Look at the hair.
I see it. What? I see it. My God, what's the show?
That's actually Noises Off.
Oh.
A couple of years ago. Yeah, he's playing the director. And I like to think it's him negotiating a contract with one of my assistants. Look how he's handed a bottle of scotch over.
Yeah.
I want to get to this photo. Where is it? Where are you, Martha? Oh, there we are. Martha, tell us about this.
Oh,
That's your postmistress.
That's postmistress. Yeah.
Yeah.
Every picture of me seems to have my mouth open. I'm like a Muppet. So that was.
But a talented Muppet.
Thank you.
You're like the Kermit.
A one woman musical by Thompson Highway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you did that at Neptune?
I did that at the Ship Company Theatre first.
Yeah.
Then at Neptune, then at Thousand Islands Playhouse, I actually got to see No Great, and I saw your run through of No Great Mischief.
Right.
Before I left.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right.
The postmistress?
The postmistress.
That's on my bucket list.
Well, you get to. You have
outfits like that. I want to be in it.
You've got the legs for it, Bill.
I do.
Definitely.
Let me find one more. This isn't connected to Neptune, but I found this picture on the internet today, Nikki, when I was looking for pictures of you just by doing a Google search. And I just want you to tell me about this because I think this is you. If it isn't, it's very embarrassing. I think it is. And if it is, I didn't know you'd played this part, so now I want to talk to you about this.
Oh, yeah. That's me and John Mann. You know, John Mann from Spirit of the West, who just passed away.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. So he played Thénardier, and I played Madame Thénardier in Les Mis.
That's right. Where was that? Where was that?
At the Arts Club in Vancouver.
Right. Yeah.
Oh my God! Look at him.
And
fabulous.
Here's another one. We're nearly finished this trip down memory lane, but here's another one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Driving Miss Daisy.
That's it.
And who's that with you? I mean, I know who that is with.
It's Wally.
Wally
Gordon.
There you go. And have you done this play a number of times, Nikki? Or
I haven't. I've only done it. I think I've only done it twice, but Walter has done it, I think, 90 times.
Yeah. Yeah, I think he has. Because actually, when I looked at that picture, I then sort of continued looking at pictures of Walter, and he was in that car with a whole bunch of different women.
Oh, I want to do that one too.
You can say that again. Bill, that's the show for you. Yep.
I know.
Tell us about this, Bill.
Now that happens to be true. That's a book that I wrote, and a lot of what is in that I learned at Neptune, and I was thinking about the fact that we're now in a crisis where people don't know how to behave. They don't know how to deal with the insecurity and all of the other things that are happening. Theater people have gone through this again and again and again. And the ones who identified themselves with their profession didn't survive. The ones you had to have a personality outside of it. You had to be somebody outside of it. When you got to work, it was a blessing. And I'm finding all of the skills that I acquired in the theater are keeping me reasonably sane now.
Yeah.
But it's also true that this is a time to make sure that you hone your skills when you can't work, because you got to get ready for when you can. And everybody's hurting right now. But I also know that they're strong people because they know how to take rejection, they know how to wait, and they know how to get ready.
Yeah.
You know. So it's an amazing
It's
industry.
true.
I've met some people.
We're very,
The people
we're
that
well
we've all
suited.
met people like you three are examples, but they're just people that you just go, these are there's resilience, there's talent, and there's also just a strength of character that if you don't have it, you can't stay alive in this thing. You just can't do it.
Yeah, it's really true, Bill. It's so true. We're very we've everything we've ever done has been sort of giving us those skills to cope with times.
And the rejection thing. Jeremy just rejects and rejects and rejects, and I never hold it against him. And we still talk in a friendly manner. I bought him a drink the other day. I spit in it, but I got him a drink. So
So that wasn't a cappuccino?
No.
Oh.
The froth was.
Okay, wanted to check. What I've heard said a number of times is, from people even within our industry, we're not going to, this is going to be so difficult to recover from. The arts, the theater is never going to be the same. It's dead. Our industry, our art form, our chosen profession has been dying and at the point of death for 5,000 years, and it will bounce back. It may take a year or so. But it will return in the way that the people that watch it demand it to exist, which is not watching people, I think, in little boxes, other than this show, Tuesday to Friday, 8:30 p.m. But it's to see theater in that room with everyone around you, and obviously there's a pandemic, and we don't want to sit next to a stranger right now, but we will again, right?
Yeah. The other thing is too that's the thing about live theater, that chemistry that happens, the mirror neurons that kick in, and that's in that book that you showed earlier. It's with the people that you're on stage with, but it's also with that audience, and then the audience with each other, and then with us. That doesn't happen anywhere else. It was created by humans because it's the most human of creations, I think.
I want to thank you, the three of you, for being here this evening. I feel like we could probably just keep chatting forever, and I just don't want to right now. But I want to let everybody else get out of here. We can keep talking after the show. I want to thank Support for Culture for their ongoing and continued love and support of this endeavor and many endeavors in the arts community in our community. So thank you to them. I also do just want to remind everyone that we have a lottery going on right now where you can buy a ticket. It was a theater trip lottery where you were going to go and see Come From Away and Hamilton. Well, those shows aren't happening right now, of course. So what we did was we took the value of the prizes and turned it into cash. And there's a little something to watch here. You three stay exactly where you are. So thank you, Martha Irving, Nikki Lipman, Bill Carr, for being our guest tonight on Off the Leash. It was an absolute joy.
Thank you.
Nice to see you guys.
Great to see you guys.
Really great to see you.
Yeah.
Wonderful to see you all.
We have one more episode this week, and I'm thrilled to say that our resident photographer at Neptune, Stu Met, is going to be in studio with me tomorrow. We're going to turn the lens on him a little bit and find out what it's like being the person that sees our shows first. So when Stu gets to photograph the shows, they are usually the first person in the room other than people that are working on the show. And I always look to Stu to tell me what they think of the show. And if they give me the thumbs up, then I know we have a hit. So that's tomorrow night at 8:30. And tomorrow night we'll also announce the guests for next week, which I'm very excited about. The week after that, I'm actually going to take a week off. So we might do some reruns or something. I don't know how that works. But we've already booked guests for the end of May and June as well. So we're just going to keep doing this until people stop watching or until they drag me out of my own basement. Thanks for watching. And I will see most of you tomorrow.